I'm Greg Reisky. I'm the volunteer steward at Pleasant Valley here in Mchenry County, Illinois. What our volunteers were doing today, and we had multiple functions taking place. We had some working with loppers, which are handheld cutting tools for cutting twigs and branches and stems up to about 1.5 inches in diameter. So they were going through and cutting small stems of these invasive shrub species. And other volunteers were picking up those cut stems and taking them to piles where we had set aside all of this woody material for later disposal. So cutting brush, hauling brush, stacking brush, that's one set of functions. And then we had another group of volunteers who were removing an old fence line, separating what had been two separate properties that are now all part of this conservation park. So they were taking out barbed wire and fence posts and coiling up the wire and preparing that for disposal. It'll be sold for scrap with the proceeds going back to the conservation district. Okay, we were working in an area that we call White Oak Woods. It's a former woodlot adjacent to old farm fields. It had been choked with invasive brush, non-native shrub species that had come here from other parts of the world that tend to create a lot of shade and outcompete some of the native vegetation. So our native plants tend to require more sunlight than would be available under the dense shade of these invasive shrubs. So we've been removing those and making the way for the return of sunlight to the ground layer so that we can restore the natural vegetation of the area and bring back an open savanna to better ecological function. An invasive plant is one that is exceptionally aggressive in an environment, typically because it's not native to that environment. Now, it may be native to that region, but it may be outside of its typical plant community. So we think of it as being invasive if it is able to crowd out more conservative native species and sort of bully its way into the environment to the detriment of native stock. And most of the invasive species that we work with are from other parts of the world, but there are some instances where a native plant may be invasive in a different plant community. The personalities are as varied as the plants that make up these communities. We have people of all age groups, all backgrounds. I think the unifying factor at play here is a deep caring for the environment, an appreciation for our natural areas, and a willingness to contribute to the overall community good.